fam. Welcome to Life More Abundantly, the podcast where we talk Black health like we talk everything else, real, out loud, and with love. I'm Dr. Eboni Haynes.
And I'm Dr. Tynisha Drennon.
And every week we're pulling up a chair for conversations about our bodies, our minds, our relationships, and our communities with receipts, not rumors.
Because let's be honest, the internet is loud, the group chat is louder, and sometimes what we learned growing up, at home, at work, and yes, even in church, didn't always give us what we needed to live our best lives.
So here's how we do it each week. We'll discuss a topic that's good for our health. Sometimes we'll have more questions than answers, but we're going to talk it through together. Either way, you'll leave with practical info you can use and share with someone you love.
And yes, we're going to talk about what's trending, discuss what's happening in the world, and sip a little herbal tea.
And one more thing, we want you in the conversation. At the end of each episode, we'll preview next week's topic, and you can send us your comments and questions by email or through the Life More Abundantly website. We'll tell you exactly how before we go. All right, sis, I think we've covered the basics. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's get into today's episode.
All right, fam. So last week when we left off, we talked about this week's episode being focused on stress, as stress is something that really does impact our quality of life. So let's get into
Absolutely.
it. So T, what's stressing you out right now? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of us live in a perpetual state of stress. I'm always stressed about my son who's autistic, stressed about money. Sometimes I stress about work, definitely stressed about this crazy government. What do you think the people are most stressed about right now?
With the government or just in general?
Just period. Yeah.
Just period.
What you stressed about?
So many things. This was a very stressful week. I had a lot going on this week. So work, just the busyness of the week, and all of the different projects that I had going on. So that was stressful. I was in my car a lot this week. So just like the stress of Atlanta traffic. And what else? Yeah, the things that are happening in the government definitely have me a little on edge this week too. I think everything will work out the way it's supposed to, but it's still doing that, it doesn't cause me to cringe when I see some of the things that our administration is doing. So yeah. Oh, and I got one of those crazy, like spam or fraudulent text messages where somebody was pretending to be somebody else and wanted me to go buy some gift cards. So
that's how you know it's a scam.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And good thing I think I'm pretty savvy about noticing those things, but still it was very frustrating to get one of those. So yeah, those are things that are stressing me out this week.
I should send a text message out to our friends and see who will send me some gift cards. Okay, I digress. What do you think most people are stressed about? Like, those are specific things to us this week.
Yeah, so I actually came across this article that I thought was pretty interesting. And then I wanted to know, is this what all of America is stressed out about, or do Black Americans have a different set of stressors? So I thought it was interesting, the comparison and the contrast between the two. So I'll mention both. So I did come across this article by Catherine Chan, and it was called "What Are the 5 Stressors in Life?" And so she didn't rank them like the other article did, but she did just kind of list those top 5 stressors in life. So the top 5, according to her, are the death of a loved one, divorce or separation, moving, long-term illness, and job loss.
Okay, I can see those being stressors. Was there a difference between the supposedly Black community?
Oh, yeah. In this next article by A. Walker entitled Top 5 Stressors That Negatively Impact Black Health, he does rank the stressors. And so number 5, he mentioned work-related issues and financial difficulties. He combined them together. Number 4, major health conditions. Number 3, a divorce or breakup. Number 2, the loss of a loved one. And number one,
Mhm.
racism, the myth of white supremacy, and general anti-Blackness.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay.
No surprise
Now we
there,
get a little
right?
bit more realistic. Right, exactly. Because some of these crossover, right? Because even though as African Americans, we do have our own unique stressors, some of them are just life, like being a human being, right? But I definitely think that racism and all the things that come with that, even the perceived notion of it, and I mean, are stressors. You know, we all have had that feeling of driving and the police are behind us and we get nervous, we ain't even doing nothing. Or we go in the
Right.
store and we feel like, you know, sometimes really people do be keeping an eye on us. And we like, man, listen, like I wouldn't be in the Dollar General. I wouldn't be in the Dollar General. Let me just say that people do be stealing from the Dollar General. We are not classes. If that's your lane, it just is what it is. But I'm just saying, like, I don't need to rack up at the Dollar Tree.
Right.
So, you know, and trust me, I am not wealthy, so this is not an elitist statement. I'm
Oh
just
gosh,
saying
tell me
there'd
about
be
it.
the strangest places where people be keeping an eye on us. Okay, so we got racism. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you agree that should be?
Absolutely. I don't know that this stresses everyone in the Black community the same way. I remember a few years ago, someone asked me, had I ever experienced racism? And I really had to think about it because I couldn't pinpoint a situation at that time. Yeah, I hadn't experienced overt racism, but definitely since I've had that conversation with the person, I have had something that has happened that was
The
overtly racist.
microaggressions.
Yeah,
Okay, the
absolutely.
microaggressions are subtle racism.
Mm-hmm.
We all know there's that invisible glass ceiling in workplaces,
Right.
things like that. And then I would even like make a comma or a slash and say colorism still exists even in our own
That's real.
community.
Absolutely.
So, okay. What else we got on there? Work related issues slash financial difficulties, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, whew,
There's a
if you
lot there.
work for yourself, right, that is a lot, right? Because if you work for yourself or you work for someone else, just the grind of it all can be
Right.
stressful. And a lot of people deal with having a difficulty of work life balance. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
talk a lot about self care, and part of that is, you know, at work, being able to turn the phone off, the email off, just turn the switch off so that you can have that balance. And I think that goes across professions, whether you are a janitor or whether you are a CEO. Sometimes people just are always in the mindset of either being at work or getting ready for work, but never just spending time in the present. What do you think
Right.
about that?
I would agree with that. I actually was just having a conversation with someone this week about how you feel like you have to get all the things done on the checklist every day. And so that means
Mm-hmm.
that you're taking your work even to bed with you. So
Yeah.
sometimes I find myself in the bed and I'm on my cell phone responding to emails and
Yeah.
just making sure that I've done everything that was on my to-do list for the day before I go to bed. And truth be told, that's not really healthy for any of us.
It isn't. And I can't think of the exact article in my mind, but I did read one time that this is why a lot of people have heart attacks in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning because they're stressed out going to sleep about work related issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then there has been a study done that says like most heart attacks occur or strokes Monday morning because people are stressed about work on Monday. So just to keep that in mind.
Oh,
Before we
yeah.
move forward going through, I just wonder what are some things we can suggest people do? I don't want us to just be spitting it out there without any suggestions on how we can attend to the stressors in our life. So we
Good
talked about
point.
racism. Whew,
Ooh, child, I
how
don't know
can we
how
deal
we.
with that? Right. I don't know. We've been living with it all our lives. All our lives we had to fight.
That's right. And I'm not sure I have any good recommendations for that, other than, just remembering that you are enough, regardless of what the world says,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what your boss says, no matter how
Mm-hmm.
employees at work treat you or people out in the community treat you. You're here for a reason. You are good enough. You're smart enough. You can achieve whatever it is that you want to
Right.
achieve. You can drown out the naysayers and just live into your purpose, whatever that purpose is, even if you have people who are intentionally putting stumbling blocks in your way. Just know that
Absolutely.
our folks got us to this point, and we stand on the shoulders
Right.
of giants. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
yeah, if we could survive the Middle
Mhm.
Passage and slavery
Mhm.
and Jim Crow and come
Mhm.
through the civil rights movement, not unscathed, but we got through it. We got protections, laws, although, you know, folks are trying to roll those back, but our folks are resilient people.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I think sometimes if we remember that, no matter what people throw at us, we can overcome it.
I definitely think that what are the two phrases? I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And then
Absolutely.
in the
Yes.
church, I'm the answered prayer to
Mm-hmm.
my ancestors. So both of
Mm-hmm.
those things, I think you're absolutely right. Remembering that. I also think mindfulness, because both you and I are heavy on mental health. And so I do something with my clients where I say, take the pause. Like your pause can be before you respond to that email, that comment, whatever the case may be. Your pause can be going for a walk. Your pause can be, I got to go to the restaurant. And take
Mm-hmm.
however long you need to pause to remind yourself of all the things that Dr. Eboni just said. Say a prayer, do a woosah, count your 10, right? But do it in the sanctity
Absolutely.
of your own space so that you can collect yourself. Call a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
a friend,
Mm-hmm.
vent. Say all the things that you want to say, but you still have responsibilities, and we can't always say what we want to say to who we want to say it to.
Not to stay employed.
Real so. Not stay employed. I be telling my nephew all the time, like, sometimes I don't like the people at my job, but I got people depending on me. Like, we can't just cuss out everybody we want to when we get grown.
Exactly.
So definitely that. We really didn't dive into a lot, but financial difficulties. I think most of us, especially in January, are feeling the sting of the holidays because we do all the things that they suggest we don't do with gift giving and entertaining and all the things. So we're not going to get in that today. But one of the things that I always tell people in terms of, financial stress is small wins, right? So a lot of times people will be like, I can't afford to save 10%. I can't afford to invest. You may or may not be able to do that. But what are the small wins? Like, can you save $1 a day? And at the end of the month, go have you some cheddar biscuits at the Red Lobster, or,
Right.
buy a book that you've been thinking of, subscribe to our podcast.
We'll
Those
keep you
types of
laughing.
things. Right. Small wins. Or can you save the 365 and go on a little staycation at the end of the year? So I think that we definitely have to know that we're not just dealing with the stresses of work to only pay bills. Like, you got to have something that you invest in for yourself to say, okay, this is, even if it's small, a reward of my labor. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I do remember this statement that my husband makes. I don't live to work. I work to live. Yeah. So just remembering that you are not defined by your work. You're not defined by how
Right.
much you work, and you're not defined by how much money you make. So
That part.
you have to make sure that you are being responsible with the money that you do have, but also remembering that it is okay to use some of that on you, just you,
Right.
to do the things that you need to do in order to not be stressed out, to make yourself feel good, to love on yourself or other people is totally fine.
Absolutely. And then you and I were talking about the PTO calendar, right? A lot of people don't use their PTO, and you
Right.
was like, take your PTO. But
Right.
then didn't you tell me it was something like where you could stretch out the holidays, like for the long weekends?
Yes, definitely. If you know that there's a holiday coming up, then maybe what you do is, if the holiday is on Monday, use the PTO on Tuesday and Wednesday. So then you get a 5-day holiday, or what feels like a 5-day holiday, because you take advantage of the 2 weekend days. If you work Monday through Friday, so you get to take advantage of the 2 weekend days plus the Monday
Right.
holiday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday. And so now it feels like you've taken a 5-day holiday, but you've really only used 2 days of PTO,
You
paid
only
time off.
basically, yeah, that's great. And a lot of us have like reimbursements that we can get through our job related insurances. So at my company, my insurance gives us reimbursement for some preventative care things. So it's like $50 per preventative care, up to whatever. So a lot of times we're leaving money on the table because we don't collect really free money that's out there. So that could be a little reward money. Like, I'm gonna take that reimbursement and do something fun, or maybe pay a bill if you just have to. But that's something that a lot of times most of us don't take advantage of, those free services, or I don't want to say free because it's just a
You're
reimbursement,
paying
but
for them.
still. Right. But it's still
Right.
your money, just like
It's your
income
money.
tax. It's yours. Go get it.
That's right. Yeah, every little bit helps. I know some of us have just come through open enrollment periods with our jobs, but you
Mm-hmm.
might need to go and dust off or pull up that paperwork that tells you all of the benefits that you get through your employer so
Right.
that you will know what you can submit for reimbursement for, and do it ASAP. Don't put it off. Go ahead and do it before you forget about it.
Right. Don't be like me. Also, there are free benefits sometimes. Like my job offers free roadside assistance. So I was able to drop that from
Mm.
my car insurance plan. So just little things like
Oh,
that. Like
wow.
Ebony said, like look through, read through, because some of it is in the fine print and we miss it just, being like, okay, I got health insurance and I'm going to move on.
Right.
And then for those who don't have health insurance or don't have that benefit, I want to encourage people to use the resources that are in the community, right? Because there are a lot
Right.
of free clinics and mobile health units. And sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to go over there. Girl, sir, man, sis,
Go.
bro, go get what
I
you
need you
need
to
to get.
go. Right.
Yeah.
That part. Especially with all this craziness that's going on with the healthcare marketplace and the subsidies
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing going on right now. So yes, take full advantage of whatever resources you can so that you won't be stressed out. Like these things on the list are the top stressors in life. You don't have to be stressed out with them, right? Death is inevitable. So all of us are going to
Oh, yeah.
experience the death of a loved one. But, if we prepare, if we start thinking about how we can address the stressors when they come in general in our lives, like we talked about last week, then I think we're in a better position to deal with the death of a loved one when it actually does happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to go through
Sure.
the grief process and that looks differently for everybody. But if you were already in a place where you weren't doing any type of self-care before you dealt with one of these stressors, then that
So
just is
true.
going to make it more difficult for you to work through stressors like the death of a loved one or divorce or
True.
separation when it actually does
True.
happen.
Absolutely. And I think just as responsible people putting information in the world, we got to stand on our soapbox a little bit about life insurance and burial
Mm-hmm.
insurance and accident insurance, which are all three different things. But that takes the stress off of our loved ones. Back in the day, even though our grandparents and great grandparents, they might not have had life insurance, but you know what they did? They paid their funeral expenses up front. Like you said, death is inevitable. Unfortunately, none of us know the day nor time. We all plan to be old and die in our
Mm-hmm.
sleep. That is most of our goals in prayer, right? But just knowing that we're leaving behind people who love us and care for us and will grieve us. And we want to make sure that even if they're not financially secure, that they're not financially burdened by our
Right.
death.
Absolutely.
And so investigate those things as well. And I always tell people, this is my own personal soapbox because I work in healthcare, about long-term care insurance. Of course, one of the things we hear, especially in our community, we don't want to talk about death and dying. We don't want to talk about illness, but we also are always saying what we can't afford. Well, do you want to be in a nursing home paid by the state and have to sell all your assets? Or do you want to have a plan in place so that you're able to live where you want to live and have proper care if something were to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though I hate the government being in our business, the same way they make us have car insurance, I feel like some
Right.
of these things need to be in place as well so that we can be a little bit more responsible to the people we're leaving behind. So that's my little
Absolutely.
soapbox.
I appreciate you bringing that up because the last time I talked to one of my other girlfriends, she was telling me that it costs over $8,000 a month to have her mom in a nursing home. Everybody doesn't have $8,000 just to drop on nursing home expenses,
Absolutely.
right? I
Right.
would say the vast majority of folks in our community do not have $8,000 just to pay the nursing home. So, when you think about the cost of long-term care for you or a loved one, we have to start thinking more about how we ensure that our loved ones are not burdened because we didn't do some of this planning ahead of time. And we can't even say that there aren't people who look like us who are in that space who can give us good information and guide us, and that there aren't people that we can trust to tell us the best plans for us to be in. No, there are plenty of folks who look like us in those spaces, but we have to take the time to get connected and ask the questions and investigate so that we can make sure that we're putting our loved ones in the best position possible should we need that type of service.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So glad you brought that up, which kind of, comes in combination with, health conditions or, those are stressors as well. And we kind of alluded, you got to take advantage and get your, go get yourself taken care of, but also get your preventative care, right? Sometimes we're stressing about, things because we're imagining the worst case scenario because we won't get checked out. And of course, in the African-American community, statistically, we die from diseases that if early detection had occurred and we were treated, we might not have died.
That's right. Yeah. I actually was just teaching a class at one of the local universities yesterday, and they were, I think, really surprised by the health inequities that are facing the Black community. Some things you kind of hear all the time as it relates to diabetes or hypertension or high cholesterol, those kinds of things we're kind of accustomed to, but there are a lot more health inequities that are facing the Black community. And although Black people don't get diagnosed with cancer at the same rates as maybe some other communities do, we are more often the ones who die of cancer when we look at all cancer combined. So, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we are going, like you said, to get those diagnostic tests and making sure that we're connected to a primary care professional, that we are staying connected and following our primary care doctor's orders, asking follow-up questions, being prepared when we have those conversations, etc.
Absolutely. Tom Joyner used to have take a loved one to a doctor day. I think we need to do that. But like you said, asking follow-up questions, I also think when major things are happening, we should take someone else with us because sometimes they can hear or ask questions that we might not think about because we're overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
Or scared.
Absolutely.
Or just don't want to deal with it. So I think that's important too. And then we haven't talked about yet, but a divorce or a breakup. I was telling you yesterday, there's no statistics that I'm aware of, but just in general, I think people have more breakups in January. Like, all right, we got the holidays out the way, but before I got to give you roses on Valentine's Day, let me dip.
That's horrible.
Breakups are hard. They are hard.
They are hard. But as someone who had a divorce party after getting divorced, divorce might be the thing that you might need in order to alleviate your stress. The divorce.
Not that we promoting divorce. We just saying.
We are not promoting
sometimes
divorce.
Sometimes it is what it is.
Sometimes we marry the wrong person. It is what it is.
Sometimes you gotta get out. No judgment. Just we're not promoting it. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Correct. So,
okay. Yes. So, okay, if you have a breakup, because even if it's not bad, it's still a grieving process. I don't think we talk about grief enough either. So people think grief is only associated with when someone dies. But grief is any type of loss, right? You could grieve a material thing. I lost a ring the other day and I was like, oh, God. You know what? How many payments I had to make? Okay, sorry, I digress. But you could grieve a physical thing, or you could grieve a person, even if they're not dead, or you could grieve the expectations you had for a scenario. Right? I didn't get promoted on my secular job last year. I had to take a moment to grieve that because I was like, what you mean? And so dealing with grief, during your breakup, a lot of times people rebound. I'm not going to get into the cliches of how we get over people, but taking a moment to realize you have a loss and whether it was needed or unexpected, just taking the time to deal with that and process it. Eboni, my other soapbox is therapy. I can't say this enough. I'll probably say it every podcast. You need Jesus, therapy, and some of us need meds.
Right.
So how you can cope with all of these stressors or ones we didn't list? Because let's face it, each stress is not a universal thing. But whatever your stress may be in your life, I always suggest therapy. And therapy doesn't mean you gotta go every week, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe you meet once a month, maybe you meet once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think checking in with a person who is objective and not just opinionated.
Right. Yeah, if I had my way, I would definitely make it a requirement for individuals to go, just like you go get your annual checkup, or at least it's recommended,
Mm.
although I think everybody should
Mm-hmm.
be forced to go um,
Mm-hmm.
by their insurance companies. I also think that people need to go and have the same type of checkup, but just for your mental health. So even if you feel like you don't need to go see a mental health professional, you go and you just talk, you just share what's going on. Because although I think sometimes we get really good of carrying our stuff, um,
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff that we're carrying, we should have let go a long time ago. And so a
Mm.
therapist can help you deal with that. And as someone who has a therapist whom I love to death, I don't know what I would do about my therapist. There may not be anything
Right,
going on with me personally. You know, everything might be going right at home.
right,
Everything might be going right at work, but just having someone who's not your friend, because your friends are always going to have your back, right? And may not
right,
be objective, like you mentioned, but a therapist can be objective and they can see things that you may think are just, kind of normal,
right.
and
Notice.
then help you talk through that, process through that.
Absolutely. A therapist or a counselor can notice trends or patterns that you exhibit that you might not notice or your friends might not notice because their life is lifing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they also may be the person who recommends you might need a little bit of medication to help you.
Right.
And we have to debunk the stigma of taking mental health medicine. A lot of us don't take medicine for anything, but a lot of us do take medicine for blood pressure and cholesterol and whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to pop an antidepressant. Living
Right.
your life abundantly means sometimes we got to take advantage of that as well.
Absolutely. Another thing that we often don't think about is that there are other ways to boost our mental health. I think everyone, like I mentioned, should have a therapist, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can boost your mental health by being more physically active. And so I'll
Uh-huh.
be honest, back in early December, I was just feeling like I was in a funk, and I probably have felt that way for about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And to the people around me, they wouldn't have even known about it, right? Because I think we are
Mm.
so good about showing up for other people. We're good
Yeah,
about putting on the mask. We're good about making
yeah.
it seem like everything is good with us. But deep down, we know when we're not ourselves, when we're not feeling,
Mm-hmm.
when we're not feeling it. And so after about 10 days, 11 days, it was like, I have to do something to like
Mm-hmm.
really get out of this funk that I'm in. And so what I ended up doing was just like forcing myself to get on my stationary bike and just
Okay,
ride for 30 minutes.
okay.
And I didn't, commit to doing anything more than just that. But, when we know better, we do
Mm-hmm.
better. And so, once I
Mm-hmm.
realized, okay, you're in a funk, girl, you got to figure it out. You got to snap out of it. Getting on the bike was the closest thing and the easiest thing for me to do in that moment. So that's what I did. And just the exercise alone was enough to,
Mm-hmm.
stimulate me to the point where I felt like, okay, well, now everything doesn't feel like a chore or a burden, or I feel like, okay, now I have the energy to do the thing that I've been putting off for the last week because I've just been in
Yeah,
this slump. So, diet and exercise, we cannot overemphasize the benefits of those things.
I like it. I'm gonna let you have that one.
Y'all gonna know all our
I
business
wanted,
after we do
I
this
know, I want to say
podcast.
something about pound cake and fried chicken. Is the reason they call them comfort foods, but this is a responsible podcast, so.
I'm not saying you can't eat the things that bring you comfort, because I'm a sweet potato pie girl myself. And so we won't talk about the whole sweet potato pie that I ate for Christmas.
Right. But we do want
But
to live life more abundantly. So,
exactly. And so, just recognizing that we're human and, we fall off sometimes, but just get back on. Keep it
Right.
moving.
And I will say that on your theme of diet and exercise, that when our ancestors made these quote unquote comfort foods, because we also know other reasons why we eat why they made the food they made. They also exercise, even though they weren't in a gym, they weren't on a stationary bike, they were out in the fields doing physical labor, they were walking, they were going up and down stairs. And so that's different. You know, our lives are so comfortable that many of us are very sedentary, myself included. And so that has a different effect on our bodies and our health when we eat those foods and we don't exercise, or we don't eat them in moderation. So, you know, whether you have a cheat day, I agree with you. We're trying to do better so we can live life more abundantly.
That's right. We're going to do better in 2026. So for those of you who are not sleeping well, those of you who are not getting enough sleep, those of you who think, oh, I'll be able to operate just on 3 or 4 hours of sleep every day, we need you to do better with your sleep. Please and thank you.
Yes, please and thank you. The one thing about Black people, though, I will say, like, when we're stressed, we will take a nap. But if we got that 8, 9, 10 hours sleep at night, we might be able to cope a little bit better with the things during the day.
Absolutely. Agreed.
We gotta talk about, as we're talking about stressors and health, you're a public health person. So what should we do if we lose our health insurance?
Yeah, this health insurance thing is a big topic right now. For those of you who are keeping up with what's going on in Congress as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, but some of you may have lost a job recently, or some of you may have felt like health insurance was too expensive, and so you no longer have health insurance as we move into 2026. But a couple of things I would recommend. So number one, if you lost your job, remember that's a qualifying life change. So it really does open you up for what's considered a special enrollment period, which gives you about 60 days from the time that you lost your job in order to sign up for a plan on the exchange. And depending on what your life circumstances are, you may be able to even qualify for subsidies that allow your insurance costs to be zero. So you definitely want to investigate that. You can do that at healthcare.gov. What else? If you are unemployed.
Can you negotiate?
Yeah, you can. That's actually the next point that I was going to bring up. So let's say you have some income, and although you don't have insurance, you have some income. You definitely can negotiate with your doctor's office and see if you are able to pay cash for your visit. So doctor's offices, hospitals, they have a cash price, and they also have the insurance price for your services. So definitely ask them for the cash price. I remember a few years ago, I had insurance, but for some reason my doctor had not sent over the pre-authorization for an MRI. And so when I got to the place where I needed to get the MRI, they told me that I was going to have to pay $1,500 because I didn't have this pre-authorization. So of course I'm giving them the side eye, because it's like, who got $1,500 to pay for an MRI? And so, the lady, basically ended up telling me, but if you go on this website, if you fill out this form, then it will give you access to this service where you can get this MRI for $500. So, yeah. So I went online, filled out the form, and I got this MRI for $500. So there are programs that our providers know about that allow us to not have to pay so much for our health care, but we need to put our pride aside and ask the question, because so often, especially if you've been someone who's always had a job, always had insurance, you're used to taking care of yourself and not having to ask anybody for help. Ask for the help. If you need it, ask for it, because there are programs out there that might be able to help you.
And I didn't know about cash payment option, but what I did know is, because I have insurance, my deductible is crazy high. So you can also get on payment plans.
You can definitely get on a payment
with
plan
your doctor's office, but hospitals, I don't know about urgent care, but I definitely know in the ER and doctor's visits, you can get on a payment plan. So that may help as well.
Yeah, urgent care centers usually don't allow for payment plans, but definitely hospitals. And the other thing you might want to do, if you have lost your insurance or you've lost your job and you need health care, there are federally qualified health centers. A
Oh.
federally qualified health center is basically like a community health center. It may look like a standard doctor's office. You may not even realize that it's not a regular doctor's office,
Okay.
because that's what it is. It's just that they are set up in such a way that you can get on a sliding fee scale based on your income. And then that determines what you have to pay for the services that you receive. So if that's your situation and you need to get to a doctor, but you're not sure that you'll be able to pay up front, like you might have to do with the urgent care center, then you can go to findahealthcenter.hrsa.gov.
Good. Some of y'all need to get on there right now. But wait till after the podcast. Sure. All right. Sounds good. All right, y'all. So that was up first. And if you were about to forward that to the group chat, you're welcome. Please forward it. Please subscribe. We need all the subscribers. Subscribe before you forward. What are we on? Facebook, Instagram?
We're on everything. We're on
all the things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What's up next, Eb?
Yesterday was National Pharmacist Day, so we absolutely have to talk about that just for a moment, especially since we're having such a robust conversation about healthcare. So one of the things that I don't think people realize is that pharmacists do more than just, fill our prescriptions. One of the things that they do is that they can administer immunizations like flu shots, but even more than that, my mom recently traveled to Kenya and she did her consultation with her pharmacist. Her pharmacist gave her her immunizations. And so, you don't necessarily always have to go to a travel clinic for that. So keep that in mind. They also can perform health screenings, like do blood pressure checks, check your cholesterol and that kind of thing. And then they can also help you manage your chronic condition. If you're diabetic or if you have some other chronic health condition, because they're prayerfully filling all of your meds. So if you are not getting all of your meds filled at one pharmacy, unless it's a mail order pharmacy and your insurance company is kind of requiring you to do the mail order thing, although there are ways around that. So definitely look into that. But if all of your meds are coming to your local pharmacy, then your local pharmacist can check not only for adverse reactions, but they also can give you some recommendations. Maybe they say have a conversation with a specialist, especially if it's a primary care doctor that's, prescribing your medicines and they're noticing that something's, going on with you physically. Maybe you told them that you're extra fatigued or you don't feel good after you take a particular medication, right? They may have some extra tips for you so that you can really, be your best self.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about that. Like calling up the pharmacist, like, I feel X, Y, and Z with this medicine. What do you suggest? So that's good to know.
Well, since we're talking about the calendar, the other thing that's on the calendar is today is January 13th. And this is the 113th anniversary of my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And we are celebrating 113 years of scholarship, sisterhood, and service. So shout out to all of my sorors. There are a number of other D9 organizations celebrating their Founders Day this month. So shout out to you as well.
I want to shout out all of those of us who belong to Me 5 Me. Go Me 5. Oh, okay. Just saying. But yes, we support our D9s. They do wonderful work.
It's not too late, sis. It's not too late.
I'm young. I'm getting ready, but I'm going to keep it a secret right now because you know how y'all be. Okay, so congratulations to the whole D9. We love each and every one of y'all and the community activism and service that you all do.
Cool.
Ooh, yeah. It's time for herbal tea. A lot of y'all gave us feedback. That's your favorite part. We are not Wendy Williams, but we are going to talk about this tea. Okay.
Ooh, yes.
Ebony, remind the people, what's our herbal tea? I said it should be called urban tea. Ebony said, no, it's herbal tea. So tell us what herbal tea means.
Yes. Herbal tea means that we're able to turn gossip into something that is beneficial for our communities.
Mm. Okay. So people are still talking about the dress. And I said, okay, I want to talk about the psychosis or mental health or shade room responses of critique. So when I was talking about the dress, I had my thoughts about the dress. I had my opinions about the dress. I did mention a little bit of my opinion here on the podcast, but for me, mostly it was what we call kitchen table talk. I talked to my friends. I didn't even talk to my colleagues about it, right? Because to me, it wasn't global life and death defining to the culture. You know what I mean? It was just what we talking about amongst ourselves. But of course, we already know the only reason we're talking about it here is because it became a national phenom. Made it all the way to People, made it all the way to Tamara Hall, made it to pulpits across the country. Scholars, like legit scholars, were writing about the dress. Like it's become a phenom of its own. And for me, I started thinking about, for lack of a better word, right? That's the reason we're calling it the psychosis. I really started thinking about the psychosis of critique and how we handle things in the culture. And so as long as we were just talking amongst ourselves, I was fine. When we got to name calling, it went left for me. I did read an article by Dr. Candace Bimbo, who is famous for lipstick theology, and she challenged our critique about the agency of women's bodies. And I definitely don't want to be on the police task force about women's bodies and what we should wear and all that kind of force. I've been arrested by those police before. It was not comfortable. But I do wonder, in our culture in general, if we say we can wear, we can say, and we can do whatever we want, then don't each of us have the same agency to respond in the way that we want? But it was problematic for me when we got to name calling. When a pastor first of all, it was problematic for me when we started addressing this from the pulpit. I am not a perfect preacher. I think myself to be very liberal, but I still think the pulpit is sanctified and it is about promoting the gospel of Jesus Christ. So when we started addressing pop culture, which is what this is, from the pulpit, I think we've gone left. And I also had issue with the name calling. I had issue when the person wearing the dress, who was a doctor, who was ordained, was referred to as a whore. But I also had issue when people were referred to as insecure and small-minded and had never been anywhere. And so I just wonder, as adults especially, first of all, is every comment that's listed in 140 characters worthy of response? And also, or a clapback, as y'all like to call it, but also as adults, do we really need to be name calling people?
That's good, T. Yes, everybody is talking about the dress. Even people who didn't know these folks' names beforehand now know everything about them, it seems. And so everybody's got something to say about the dress as well as the commentary that has become so public. And so one of the things that I'm challenged with is, yes, are we no longer able to have dialogue about a topic where everybody doesn't have the same opinion and it still be civil like it used to be back in the day, right? I think we've gotten to a place where, and I won't even blame this administration, although I do feel like they have definitely done their fair share to promote a society where it's so easy to just say whatever you want to say in response to people that you don't agree with, to even threaten people that you don't agree with. And so we see a lot more of that in our society in general. But one of the things that I was reminded of in one of our conversations a couple days ago was just that, what has been the norm, what has been appropriate, what we generally see as acceptable has always been determined by community. And so we even see that in the legislation that has been enacted, right? And so over time, the community, society determines what is acceptable and what's no longer acceptable. And they establish policies and laws based on that.
Right.
Now, here lately, we were starting to see legislation being rolled back, but we see that because what's acceptable has continued to be determined by society. And so now society today has said that these things are no longer what we deem appropriate or acceptable. And you can, you know, disagree with the premise. But at the end of the day, that has always been how we've operated as a society. And we've always operated too, where in certain segments of society, certain things were acceptable. In other segments of society, those things were unacceptable. We have to interrogate that too if we're going to have this conversation about whether people can have opinions and voice those opinions and not feel any kind of way about voicing those opinions because other people are clapping back or threatening or name calling.
Absolutely. And I also wonder, and this is not the particular context that we know about, but I also wonder, are we still able to receive critique in love or chastisement by our elders, right? I mean, we are at an age, you and I, where mothers of the church could still say something to us, right? So I wonder, and I don't know if this has happened, but I wonder if a Bishop Vashti McKenzie or Dr. Cynthia Hill or Dr. Claudette Copeland or any of those people on those levels, if they called Dr. Bryant on the phone and said, well, maybe next time, and if she received it or not. I don't know. I don't know if that happened, but I know growing up in the church, I have been in the pulpit and handed a lap scarf.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't no option of taking it or not. You know, I took it. I have been told, you know, by a female bishop, you know, that dress is a little bit tight as an ordained clergy, and evaluating like, is it? Okay, maybe you're right. I have been chastised for wearing stilettos and no stockings. Now that's no big deal, but when I was coming through 30 years ago, not wearing stockings in the pulpit was criminal. And that one, I was like, well, you're gonna have to get over it. But you know, I do believe that, but even when the person said it to me, I wasn't like, who you talking to? You know, you can't tell me nothing. I was just like, okay, I hear you. You know what I mean? So at what point can we, especially those people in the church or even in the workplace, because I thought about you talking about last week, you mentioned about appropriate attire, and business casual has become something totally left. You know, even RFK, as much as I dislike him, is talking about, why are you wearing pajamas in the airport? Like, you're doing too much and too little at the same time. I just wonder, I'm posing it out there to our audience, when can we say something in love? Not in disrespect, not in shame, not in bullying, but when can we say something in love to someone else in private, not on social media, and it be received like, oh, okay. Maybe
Absolutely.
Or maybe in social media, is it okay for someone to put out there what their opinions or thoughts are, and us at least evaluate like, maybe that was a bad choice, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm gonna do what I want to do. You know what I mean? But I do think that culturally, church-wise, even society-wise, like you said, there has been critique. And at some point, somebody who is more experienced, who's older, whatever the case may be, they should be able to weigh in respectfully, and we at least ponder.
Yeah, I think that there is definitely a way for us to share our opinions in love and for them to receive them in the same manner, right? With love, with understanding. Doesn't mean that we have to agree, but I do think it is mandatory for us to do that in order for us to maintain civility and decorum in our society. I, back in October, had a conversation with a relative, and my relative feels very strongly that women should not preach. And he expressed that to me to my face. And although we definitely disagree on the point, I received what he shared. It is his opinion. I still love him right? We can still
Mm-hmm.
be in relationship, but I take that
Mm-hmm.
critique or that opinion and I file it away, right? It's good
Right,
to know
right,
that that is his opinion, but does that mean that
right.
I change how I should be showing up in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
I'll pray on it, I'll reflect on it
right.
and determine my next steps.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that is the mature response.
Absolutely. We can agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
We can disagree to disagree. So I love it. Oh, so another hot topic. And please understand, our listeners, we're not only going to talk about church stuff, but we are church people. This accusation of Donnie McClurkin. I guess I really think we should say Donnie McClurkin / Tyler Perry, since we talking about pop culture. Lord have
Mm-hmm.
mercy. And they both have been accused of sexually assaulting other men. And I would just like to say on this topic, I'm glad that men are coming forward. There was a time when, culture said that the manly thing was to just suppress it, let it go. And so I'm glad to hear that men or women are coming forward about sexual assault. I think there's going to be, at some point before you and I leave this world, a reckoning, even in the Black church, male and female, about sexual assault. So I want people to report it. I don't want people to exploit it for
Mm-hmm.
financial gain, and I don't want people to lie. So, as I said
Mm-hmm.
last week about domestic violence, I think there should be charges for people who are proven to be be lying. But I also do think we need to take every accusation seriously. That's why a lot of people don't come forward, is they don't think that they will be believed. So I guess it used to be innocent until proven guilty. So maybe the new culture is guilty until proven innocent. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still on the line, but you tell me, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to maintain a culture where we are innocent until proven guilty. I do think that we're in a space where social media has taken over our lives too much, right? And so people feel like they have to talk about everything. We have to talk about
So true.
everything right now, even in the news before we have all of the details. We are running with stories and we're putting all of this
Oof,
information out there that makes it seem like people are guilty before they've even gone to court,
that's true.
had the evidence
That's true.
presented. And so I think also as responsible adults, then our responsibility should be to recognize how at any moment this could be someone we know, someone we love, or it could be
Mm-hmm.
us. And so
Mm-hmm.
how would we
Mm-hmm.
want this information to be portrayed, especially in the media? And so we have to be responsible about the information that we share. We do definitely need to take it seriously when someone comes forward with an accusation, but we should not
Yeah,
jump to conclusions until we have all of the information. So y'all just
fair
chill
enough.
until all the information comes out. And then
Fair
we
enough.
see where all the cards fall. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, y'all, we got into a lot on this segment.
A lot.
What we talking
A lot of
about
good
next
stuff
week? I
though.
didn't look at the calendar. What we talking about?
Yeah, so next week, at least on tap, we're going to talk about maternal health. So
Ooh,
we already
that's a
know
good
you
one.
guys are interested in this topic. There are some things that
Mm-hmm.
have happened recently that make this a very timely topic. And so we are going to
For
talk
sure.
about maternal health next week.
Yes, and to our male followers, you need to tune in too, because you need to be finding out what's going on with your girl, your wife, your woman, your daughter. So please, just because we talking about
Absolutely.
maternal health doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be listening. You need to find out. You need to be more educated about what we go through. We both mothers,
Absolutely.
but y'all need to be in
It,
tune. Okay.
it involves you all as well.
All right. Well, we already know y'all are going to have questions. Oh, Lord. And comments. You don't got to text us personally, even though we take every text seriously that you send us. You can send an email or voice note to us at, y'all got your pens, y'all got your notes out, podcast at enjoylifemoreabundantly.com. Podcast at enjoylifemoreabundantly.com, or visit enjoylifemoreabundantly.com /podcast to text us your question or comment. We do want your questions, and we certainly are
We do.
welcome to your comments.
All right, fam, that's it for today's episode. If this conversation helped you, then share it with someone else you love and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss next week. Until then,
enjoy life
and life more abundantly. Cheers!
Cheers.